Okay, can everyone hear me? It looks like we are live now. Perfect. Yay, it looks like we're all live. I'm seeing the numbers going up here, so we're just going to wait a little bit, maybe a couple more minutes before we start. And then Kara, if you wanted to turn your video off for a second, and then we will introduce you out. Yeah, thank you. Perfect. Still seeing the numbers go up here, but newcomers, welcome. Returners, nice to see you again. I see that. Here you go. Perfect. There you go. And while we're waiting, if you guys want to pop in the chat just so that we're familiar with the process, go ahead and tell us where you guys are coming from. That would be amazing. Hi, Angelo. I see you there. I'm personally from sunny California, by the way, in Oakland near San Francisco. Hoping to see San Diego, of course, San Francisco, San Jose, LA. Very cool. Portland, East Bay. Oh, all around here. That's really cool. Denver. Amazing. I've seen a lot of people moving out to Denver recently, so that's good. All right. I think the number is stabilizing now, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Oh, Tokyo. Wow. Welcome. Yes, but we're going to go ahead and get started here. Welcome and thank you everyone for joining today. For those of you who do not know me, I am a client advisor here at Doorvest. I speak to potential Doorvesters every day. My favorite part about my job is probably being able to help people get into real estate investing for the very first time. And this is, very rewarding for me. Also why our two panelists are here today. They want to encourage other people to get into this investment, real estate investing. And so hopefully by the end of this webinar, we could also help impact our listeners out there as well. But I'm so honored to be able to, let's see, I'm going to start sharing my screen. Give me 1 second so that we can all see this. Share. And let me know if you guys are not able to see my screen. Okay, perfect. Everyone able to see my screen? Perfect. Love it there. But I'm so honored again to be able to invite our two panelists who are women investors, Brianne and Kara. Let's see, there you go. I know that, we were prepping a little bit and we were just talking about how we don't see very many women investors. And so we're hoping to change that today and get that numbers up, but obviously, open to male and women alone. So you'll hear it from them directly very soon, but don't worry. You are going to, if you're here today and you're having questions around starting in real estate or have doubts, afraid to start, or want to hear it directly from our customers at Doorvest, you're at the right place, right? On today's agenda, we have at the beginning of the webinar, we'll talk to our special panelists who are Doorvest customers. We call them our Doorvesters. But the second half, we'll talk about why we are wondering why real estate investing is a good place to start, how Doorvest can help, and of course the floor will be open for any questions that you do have. So stick around as well. I know that we promised you a bonus at the end, so we'll definitely go over that as well. Okay. And then Brianne and Kara, if you can go ahead and show your screen. Yay, can everyone hear them?
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys today?
Good. Yeah, excited to talk about Doorvest.
Perfect. Bree and Carol, thank you so much. We're so excited to have you here today. Again, thank you so much for having or taking out the time just to speak with our community that want to get into real estate, right? But before we dive in and asking you like really deep questions, if you can maybe give a really short introduction about yourself, maybe anything in like your profession, where you're from, just so our listeners know who we're talking to. Bree, do you want to start?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, in terms of my background, originally from SoCal, went to school up here in San Francisco. Been here for about 10 years now, which is pretty insane. So I'd say it's my new adopted hometown. Out of college, worked in banking, got kind of bored, honestly, and pivoted into the startup space. I think it's just very fast-paced environment and more learning opportunities. So yeah, I've had the opportunity to be in roles like finance, operations, customer success, and yeah, now I'm in recruiting at a startup called On Deck in the education space. I guess to bring it back a little bit further, my family immigrated here, so I'm a first generation American. Grew up lower middle class. I think it's deeply embedded in me to look for sales and good deals. With college, fortunately, was able to get some scholarships and had a good amount of funds. Initially saved up for school, so that's what helped me buy my first property a few years after graduating. So
Wow.
thankful for what my parents sacrificed to get me where I'm at now. So hoping that this learning more about real estate could help me support not only myself but also my family in the future as well. On the side, I enjoy the sharing economy, so I'm a host on Airbnb and also shared my car and get around. I think that's what ultimately allowed me the additional passive income to continue thinking about where to invest my savings. And yeah, that's how ultimately I wanted to learn more about real estate.
Wow, right after college, I wish I did the same as you, Bree. So thanks for sharing. But Bree, while you dive into, more about yourself, maybe just tell us a little bit backstory. What is it like for you before even getting into Doorvest?
Yeah, I guess my experience in real estate kind of started post college, kind of transitioning into learning how to be an adult and transition into adulting, if that's what
Hmm.
you could call it. So yeah, I just uh, basically consumed a bunch of content in the real estate space. Started off with this website called Bigger Pocket. So every day on my commute for a year or two, I was listening to stories about people getting into real estate, and yeah, just a good way to get inspired and learn more about real people who are in the industry. And yeah, I guess because I had that money saved up from initially was used for school. That was a big motivator for me to look for other ways to invest.
Hmm.
I wasn't too sure about like the different investing spaces like stocks and all that stuff. And I've always loved real estate. Like I really enjoy looking at houses and looking for good deals, looking at what the inside of houses look like. So I think personally always just had was fond of the space.
Okay. Curious too, why did you want to get into real estate? I know you got in really young. Did you have experience or did you know people around you, or why even real estate to begin with?
Yeah, I think just I didn't. None of my family is has invested in real estate, and I think I was
Mm,
just trying to look for different avenues um, for how to invest and make money work for itself. I think I'm pretty entrepreneurial at heart, and like I've always just tried to figure out ways I can leverage my money and have money work for itself versus you having to work for it.
yeah.
And that's why I started to get into Airbnb hosting to help offset expensive rent in the city, and got a car so I could rent that out and
Mhm.
diversify my credit. Just learned a lot about personal finance as a whole.
Yeah, and that's exactly why you're in a startup right now, right? Yeah. And then also too, Bree, if you can go into before you were starting, I know that you were always interested in real estate. Did you have any fears? And maybe you can tap into being a woman investor. Like, was that intimidating? Did that stop you at all from hesitating to start? And what was that mindset like?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say because I didn't have a background in it, and like my family and didn't have too many, I guess, role models growing up in the space. I think all the steps were really intimidating for me,
Hmm.
just like looking for a house, figuring out who's going to renovate it, who's going to be the property manager to rent it out, all the
Yeah,
responsibilities that come with being a landlord, just is like really scary. I'd ask myself, am I going to be good at this? What problems can arise? I think ultimately what helped with that is, yeah, just learning more about it, a lot of research, not being afraid to ask questions.
that's amazing. Exactly how, a lot of people start. It's just getting over that hump, getting over that fear, and getting into real estate so that you can start being in the market. So really cool. I would say then, when you first started, obviously you bought a home right after college and Doorvest wasn't around. What was that process like without Doorvest? If you can share a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was a lot of it was tough, I think, just shopping around on like Zillow and learning about Redfin. Like I said, I mentioned earlier, I love a good deal. So I was on that every day, all day, and trying to see like, okay, what's a good price range? What makes sense? Also had to find my own real estate uh, like realtor, and that was also tough because I'm like, okay, how do I build the trust there? How do I know that they're gonna help me find a good house? And yeah, it was just a lot of steps, a lot of research. A lot of it was just kind of experimenting in the unknown.
Mhm,
um, yeah, definitely a lot of fear there in terms of how can I just take the step from all this learning and um, consuming the content to actually jumping right into it and
mhm.
taking action.
Yeah.
So it was tough because it was a long, arduous process with like getting my like statements together, how to look for a good loan, home insurance. There's just so many aspects to it, and doing that
Yeah.
by yourself is pretty tough.
Wow. Did you seek out for help? Did anyone around you at that time know real estate for you to do that? Like other students, other friends, family, or were you in it like for yourself?
Yeah, I think yeah, I had some friends that were involved, and they helped guide me a little bit, but for the most part it was pretty scary to take that first step and actually close on the house. And um yeah, just I think it was taking it one step at a time.
Mhm. That's really good. So now, what was your financial goals before, and what would you say is your financial goals now?
Good question. Honestly, I think uh in terms of financial goals, I haven't thought about it too much. I think it's more so a lot of learning and investing, I guess, in myself,
Yeah.
and how I can leverage what I have in terms of like financial wealth to figure out where I'm gonna be in the future.
Right.
Um, So yeah, I guess like a big and hefty goal is to try to get at least one property every year or so, and then yeah, I guess long term, I think what's great is by the end of that, to once you pay off all the loans and um, can start really getting the full incomes from that. I think
Mhm.
in the future, then you'll feel more financially secure.
That's amazing. Curious too, since you started off looking at deals on your own, was there a reason why you specifically decide to? I know right now we mentioned that you had is going to get your second home with Doorvest. Why did you decide to move forward with Doorvest? Why not go out and look at real estate yourself?
Yeah, I guess the first experience of when I did try to do it without Doorvest was just uh, so many so many steps in the process, and just being very detail oriented, which I don't really like to be. And I guess because Doorvest is it guided me throughout the entire process and
Mhm.
kind of just did most of all of the steps for me essentially. I was
Mhm.
like, it's a no-brainer in terms of just it allows me to use my time elsewhere, I think. And
Right.
having a full-time job and trying to grow my on trying to figure out where I want to be in my career, I think is
Yeah.
something I can spend my time on now.
Cool. Very cool. And I just wanted to see if Kara's audio was working just to get some questions in from her too. I know everyone's dying to hear Kara's story as well.
Hey,
Hi,
can you guys hear
Kara.
me?
Woohoo!
Perfect. We did it.
Okay, sorry about that technical difficulties.
No, you're fine. That's what happened in the world of pandemic, right? I think we all have to navigate the Zoom. It's a no-brainer that something Zoom related would happen, or so you're completely fine there. But we were just trying to get to know you a little more. If you can maybe give us a little backstory about yourself, background, how it's
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
before getting into Doorvest.
Yeah, so a little brief background about myself. I'm residing in LA. I actually just moved back 3 years ago. I was in the Air Force for about 6 years and then relocated back home to LA. And honestly, a lot of the folks that I worked with, they would always like, buy houses and use the VA loan, rent it out, and then move to a different base and then kind of redo the process. And I always like was always like inspired by it and I always wanted to do it, but I just had no idea like where to start. And I think I was like always afraid to ask. And then so prior to Dorvis, like I knew absolutely nothing except wanting to, learn more about real estate. So just I did the casual Google searches, like Reddit forums or any type of forums I can find. And I was just like trying to just like, absorb all the knowledge. So after that, like finding about Doorvest, I was just like, oh wow, like they literally can guide me through it from like, A to Z. So yeah, like I think they helped me like combat like my fears about it and understand the jargon that was like
Mhm.
always like just going over my head.
Right.
But yeah, that's a little brief background or spiel about myself. And then
Thank you.
oh,
Yeah.
and then now, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it. Go for it.
Oh yeah. And then so now like I work in the aerospace industry and moving back, I was like I moved back with my wife and we were able to save, a good chunk of money to like do a deposit. So
Mhm.
Dorvis helped us secure our first real estate investment.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. It sounds like you have done a lot of leveraging, just making sure that you're able to scale up as you go. If you can maybe talk a little bit about what was your goal like before versus your goal now in terms of financial goals.
Yeah. So I think our I think our main goal was just like being able to just like step into the world of real estate and like just being able to kind of make a good investment to where we had our money sitting in savings. But I think my logic on that was like I can have it sit in savings and then have like a 0.0001 interest rate
Right.
opposed to purchasing like an investment home and then like having that build equity or and actually use that as leverage to purchase a second home, which is
Mhm.
our next goal. And
Uh-huh.
honestly, I think our main thing is like financial freedom. And definitely Dorvest has helped us like get near that.
Very cool. Don't we all want that financial freedom, right? So this is a great first start. Thank you for sharing that. I noticed you mentioned that there were a lot of things that you didn't know at the beginning. Were definitely a lot of fears. Can you tell us more about like what are some of the fears like, and how did you overcome that? And did being a woman investor at all play a part in that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think there's a few things that definitely like came up was like the cost, like managing the tenants, also like the renovation and basically property management, like that whole thing. Like it definitely plays a part. But then after talking to them and like, basically having them guide you and like really break down like, how it works and really explaining it to you, like it definitely helped with those challenges. And it was definitely reassuring knowing that, it was kind of like, it was like going through the process with like, good friends. Like that's
Right.
how they made it. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. And in terms of, I know a lot of times when I'm speaking to potential clients every day, I think one of the biggest concern is how passive this could be when you're working with Doorvest, like we mentioned. Do you guys hear a lot from Doorvest in terms of if you needed to fix up your home? I think a lot of people are always worried about, that risk is always there when it comes to maintenance, when it comes to vacancy. What is that experience like with your homes, Bree or Kara?
Yeah, I could go ahead. So my experience with Doorvest, it was actually great. So my property actually had to, like after the tenant moved, it was carpet initially, and they had upgraded it to hardwood floor. So they had actually asked me what I would have preferred, because like again, like I had no idea like anything related to renovating. So
Right.
I just wanted something that was kind of like just easier to maintain. So like when tenants move out, like I don't always have to replace it. So they had actually recommended to me like, oh, like maybe updating the floors to hardwood floor, but it's definitely like up to me. And
Right.
I felt comfortable moving forward with that. And so they helped me out with, they did all the process. They acquired, the contractor to do the hardwood floor. And they even set up a basically kind of like a monthly payment that you would pay back. So there was like no money up front on my end. It was just kind of deducted from my, what I would get as like my rent, and like they would just deduct it from there minus like the property management fees.
Very
So yeah.
cool. That's very cool. And then for Bree, do you have any particular experiences that you had with Doorvest that you would like to share in terms of maybe maintenance or just interacting with Doorvest? I think a lot of our audience out there wanted to hear specifically on those like real life experiences.
Yeah, sure. So I'd say I think what was great, I think why a lot of people are kind of nervous about getting into real estate is because it's like, oh, is the tenant gonna call you when a pipe bursts or there's a clogged toilet? What's awesome is I just got an email from the wonderful customer success team, and they were like, hey, here's the invoice, here's the work that we did. It's already automatically yeah, similar to what Kara said, it was just deducted from the payout, and I didn't even have to think about it. It was just email in my inbox, versus having to go through and call a contractor and see what was
Right.
wrong and negotiate prices and shop around. I think that's what's awesome is that Doorvest has a team out there, and yeah, they were able to handle that all for me. No money came directly from my pocket, which is also awesome. And yeah, it's just super quick and easy. Just I
Perfect.
think I just replied with a thank you.
Yeah, amazing. And I think the other questions that I get a lot is, you're making $100 to $200 of cash flow per month. How am I going to be rich from that? Also, even with all the maintenance that you do pay, did it make sense at the end? And how does that look in terms of going through owning a home with Doorvest?
Yeah, I'm happy to go into that. Yeah, I guess initially when you hear like, oh, cash flow, right? Like,
Mhm.
oh, what's gonna happen from like $100 to a few $100s a month? I think cash flow is great. It's one of the benefits of real estate investing. I think at least what I'm excited about real estate is, and really optimizing for, is that there's so many other benefits. There's appreciation. So, yet to be transparent, I think people like to hear numbers. I'm happy to share. My first home has appreciated, like, I don't know what the percentage is, but a good percentage. I'm happy to share that later if you want to reach out to me.
Yeah, yeah, fine.
But it's great because it's appreciated a lot. Then I could leverage that and hopefully refinance and use those funds to build out my portfolio and get another home. In addition to that, with debt payoff, your tenants are helping pay off your mortgage, and so that also ultimately equates to equity buildup.
Right.
In addition to all of that, you also have tax advantages. I can't personally speak to that. You could talk to my accountant, but there's just so many other benefits in addition to cash flow. And I think that's what my long term, if you are looking to hold it for the long term, I think it's definitely worth it.
Amazing. And did you have that same experience, Kara, in the sense of, did you ever wonder, or did you ever question, hey, I'm only making that $100, $200, I'm never going to be rich from this and I don't want to start. Did you have that same experience?
No, actually, I look at it as, like, I think I had mentioned it earlier, to where instead of having, like, if you have saved up, a good chunk, like, instead of having that sit in the bank account and not really gain substantial interest, like, that's why I started looking to real estate, is because, appreciation. So, like, let's say, for example, like your, just like your 10,000, you put in towards a house, and then the market's going up, then that 10,000 is also going up. So that's how I look at it. So even though, like, your cash flow, I don't like try to get fixated, like, oh, okay, like, this is what I'm only bringing in, but I look at it as, like, a bigger picture, to where, like, where the appreciation, I would be able to leverage the house and acquire, like, another property, and I kind of just want to continue going from there.
Yeah, I love it. I was just seeing, I'm trying to read some questions here to see if there's any good ones that people like to ask. Okay, some questions are coming in, but we can definitely save those for last because it's more detailed, but that's okay. Some questions, a couple last questions, because I know we're running out of time. We want to definitely get into that next portion here. But if there's one tip or advice that you can help encourage our listeners on here today, what would that be?
Yeah, I can go. I think there's a lot of fears when it's dealing with the unknown. I think it may be scary at first, and it's normal to have those fears. But I think once you do take action and get your first home, there are so many learnings that come with it, and so much growth that you can experience once you do take that first step. And I think Doorvest really enables that.
Okay, got it. Kara, any good advice?
Yeah, pretty much like what Brianne said. And I think a lot of it, like, the best tip and advice I can give is, like, from my personal experience, is that, like, I was letting the fear of the unknown, like, really get to me. And it was actually hindering me from pursuing it and moving forward, just because real estate is such, like, new territory for me. However, like, just continue to do your due diligence and, like, really, like, research and just, like, look up into it, and then just reach out to Doorvest, and they'll like explain the steps to you and happily guide you through it. So that's what they did, and that's why I love them, and I can't wait to have my next property with them.
Amazing. You answered one of the attendees' question, meaning what are some of the things that you can prep to prepare for just all the risk that happens. So thank you for that. But I do really appreciate both of you guys joining. Hopefully, we're able to answer some of our attendees' questions, the fears that they always had or getting started. But you guys can, I promise you 30 minutes, so you definitely can hide your video. You can stay back or leave or stay back on the attendee side. Okay. And then I will go into the second part here.
Thanks, everybody.
No problem. Okay, in the second part, we're definitely going to go over, like, why real estate. We'll talk more about why Doorvest. And of course, we'll then, wrap up, just because that's probably about the time. But so why real estate? I would say if you are in real estate, you're probably leveraging real estate ownership to make you money, right? So you're borrowing money from a bank or AKA mortgage. You're putting down a 20% down payment and not having to put in all of your money up front to pay the loan back with your tenant's money. And then keeping the difference, which is your cash flow for yourself. So you're doing a lot of leveraging here, since it's a very stable investment, which is it's consistent returns, less riskier than stocks, I would say, because stocks are very volatile. It's very hard to predict. But in real estate, you have control because you're owning the property. The property is yours. Some of the stats that I do want to bring up is that home prices have gone up every year in history in the US, with very few exceptions, on average going up more than the average inflation of 2%. Also, one real life example is a year ago, Doorvest was able to find homes at a price range of 150K to maybe 170K at start. Now our averages are up to 170 to 230K. So that home value is going up, home is appreciating just from being in that market. Definitely, I think one of the biggest tips is making sure to be in the market as soon as possible and not timing that market, right? And so it sounds good. And we know that the value of real estate is there. You want in it, people are here, probably know the value, but it's very complex, right? And that brings me to the next slide, where why Doorvest? And this is when we're here because we understand that a lot of beginners out there need hand-holding, where it's not always easy to find information out there. Real estate has so many different parts to it. That includes, if let's say you wanted to fly solo without Doorvest, you'll probably need to go out there to research, to find the right property, to find the right location, estimating your cash flow to see, making sure that your renovation doesn't cost more than the home that you buy, including going out there looking for third-party vendors to choose an insurance, homeowners, mortgages. So there's a lot of options that come with it. But even after you close out the home, you now then have to go through renovation, finding a resident, making sure you stay with the state laws, and just a lot of management in general. But being with Doorvest, being that you have a partner that you can rely on to mitigate that risk of maintenance, mitigate that risk of a vacancy, but having someone to handhold you throughout the whole process as well. So Doorvest is a very turnkey solution. We are a platform that makes it very easy for anyone, anywhere to own income generating real estate entirely online. So we do all the legwork upfront, help identify a good deal that you can choose from, but we also take care of the rest so that you can focus on scaling, making more money. A lot of people that call in are doctors, lawyers who have the capital but don't have the time. So things like that you can take back, and we're helping you take care of the rest. So yes, we are. A lot of our customer database are for beginners, just because we are looking for homes that are very conservative. We're looking for homes out in Houston, Texas. By the way, we choose that because it's a very hot market, fourth largest city in the U.S., very strong and strong population and job growth, with it being the fourth highest number of Fortune 500s being here. Also, for the price range of, I mentioned earlier, 170 to 230K, we're actually able to find 3 beds and 2 baths. So very affordable, but very attractive to a lot of the tenants out in Houston, Texas. But single family homes are meant to be more conservative risk in general for beginners. It's one property, one renter, one party, one contract with very limited maintenance, as opposed to like a duplex or a home that is bigger in general. But that is the home profile that we go for. I know I have a couple of people also asking if they wanted to get started, how does that work? I would say if you wanted to get started with us, there is a $1,000 deposit, but that deposit is really just a commitment level. You don't have to, it's fully refundable, or you can put it towards the home that you buy. But once you initiate that deposit, you'll be on a waitlist queue for about 2 to 4 weeks. You'll then be able to, once it gets to your turn, we'll send you vetted out deals, right, in that home profile that we just mentioned. If you like what you see, you reserve the home. We'll then purchase it, renovate it. We'll do our part in making sure that we inspect the home. We will make sure that it's up to par, meeting the standard code. And once that happens, we will then, you'll walk through closing. We'll walk you through the closing process with our third party, we'll then sell you back the home at fair market value. And before you close out on the deal, you can go through an appraisal process where you can verify that fair market value. If you like what you see, you can move forward. If you don't, you can opt out as well. But right when you close on the deal, the home is yours with 100% equity, and we're going to transition into that property management role, where we're going to take over, the operations, making sure we have the 24-hour turnaround that we spoke about. I know Bree and Kara earlier were speaking about what it's like working with us. So, you're pretty much setting and forgetting a lot of it as well. Let's see. And also too, before you start as well, if you wanted to, feel free to reach out to one of the client investors client advisors like myself, and we can definitely answer any more questions as well. I think I have a lot of questions on fee structure. I can say that, if you wanted to clarify on anything, feel free to reach out to the client investors and book a chat with us. But I wanted to touch on that as well, is that we have a 15% property management fee off of your rent. So it seems higher because the average is 8 to 10% if you look elsewhere, but then our fee structure is also very different. Because our property management is in-house, we're able to structure it to align with our investors. So for example, we guarantee 1 year rent from the day you close. So you pretty much don't have to worry about a tenant the first year. We also have a 1 year renovation guarantee. We guarantee no maintenance for 1 year. And that's because we want to stand behind our renovation if we're saying we're fixing it. So our property management goal here is really, proper diligence up front, making sure that we have the right renovation at the beginning, preventing that maintenance over time so that our investors can make more of that cash flow. But definitely with that 15%, also no hidden fees, no layered fees, no maintenance markup, no placement fee as well. So that is the highlight of just Doorvest in general. I don't know if I wanted to do a couple of the bonus first before we jump into the questions and answers at the end. I know there's a lot of questions coming, so keep it coming. I'll answer it in maybe 5 to 10 minutes at the end. But I promise you a bonus. I know Justin, our facilitator, is going to send out a bonus where until you talk to us, a lot of our investors or a lot of the people interested aren't really able to see the available properties. But because you guys joined in today, we want to make sure that we get you to see the property as soon as possible so that you can think about it if you wanted to get in. And so Justin will be popping in a link that you can see the available property. And we can also send out that link to everyone that have joined today. Okay, perfect. And then now for question and answers. So just so that we recap on everything for follow-up after this call, you will be able to get a follow-up email with how to move forward. It will come with the bonus link with the property that's available. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out to client advisors at doorvest.com. You can also find more information on doorvest.com. And if right in the front and center, you'll be able to see Get Started button. If you click on that, you should also be able to chat with us as well. Okay, let's see some of the questions here. 1 second, let me pull it up. Okay. Type it there. Hypothetically, what happens to my property if Doorvest stops operating in the future? I'm not hoping that this will happen, but I think this is important because Doorvest is managing a little everything. So that's a very good question. So we don't foresee that happening. We're doing really well. We're hoping going towards Series A. But let's say that does happen. I would say the biggest risk is you have to find a new property manager. And the reason is because you already own that home. The equity is yours. If for any reason you need additional, if for any reason we went downhill, you just need to find a new property manager. Any plans of expansion to other cities? So currently we are all in Houston, Texas right now. And that's because we want to make sure we build our partnerships there. We want to build out territory. It's a very hot market. Priority is expansion, but that would be in the future. Okay. Oh. So why should I choose Doorvest instead of doing it myself? I know Bree and Kara has been answering that in the sense that we take care of everything and it just saves you so much more time. Somebody asked about Doorvest versus Roofstock. I would say that with Doorvest, I can't speak to Roofstock, but we are going to be as passive as you can find. So we are going to, vet out the homes for you. We are going to walk you through the process, taking over property management. Other companies you still have to do the manual labor. So it's still more like a marketplace where you have to go out there, figure out which home that you want. Oh, good question. Is Doorvest fit for experienced investors? A lot of our customer database is inexperienced people, but we also have a lot of experienced investors who don't have time to add more properties. They want to also add us as a profile. And then from there, they would scale up with us faster. So it's another route for them, another income route for them as well. The other thing was rent guarantee. I think somebody asked what happens after the second year. If you, after the second year, if the home is vacant, you do not have to pay a property management fee. I know we're also running out of time, so I will answer a couple more questions here. I think somebody asked, what about evictions and late payments for rent? Does Doorvest or the property managers handle evictions? So we don't see that very often just because, Houston, Texas has been a very landlord friendly area. But if that happens, Doorvest will take care of the processes as well, including rent collection. Okay. Minimum down payment would be typical 20%, just because it makes sense in terms of cash flow. It makes sense in terms of just that 30-year fixed rate as well. How much is your typical rental cost? Is it monthly? Our typical renovation cost is an average of 25 to 30K. So it's a gutted job renovation because we don't want to pass the home back to you and you having to do all the fixing later. But it is not just cosmetic. We don't want to patch it up. Our goal is to do the work up front because we also want that long-term relationship with you, and also giving you more of that cash flow. But one last question. The home price. The home price is the purchase price, so it's a fair market value. It includes everything. So it includes the renovation as well. All right. So it looks like we're going to be out on time here. But like I mentioned, if you have any questions here, make sure you email us, go on to our website, or just wait for the follow-up email after the webinar as well.